am the wife of the third son. Is that true? Great. And I'm going to have my second son, our second son, come narrate a skit, and we're going to see what the kids have planned for us. Welcome.
She was born to Elmer Otis Graffis and Vanessa Agnes Graffis Burns on December 31st, 1923. In her Grandma Nellie Burns farmhouse northeast of Laurel. Her given name was Vanessa, but she did not like it, so she adopted Eleanor as her given name. Her mother had gotten sick at age 17 and was ill most all of Eleanor's life, being bedridden a lot, and as the doctor said, a miracle she had any children. Without her mother's help, Eleanor learned how to cook from her dad and her Aunt Clara, who lived with her grandpa and Grandma Graffis. She grew up in a house north of town, but often she would eat meals and dinner with the cousins at Grandma Burns in town and walk to school 3 blocks from her grandma's house many days. She graduated from the Laurel Public Schools in 1942. Her siblings were 2 older brothers, Emery Graffis, who died in the Pacific Theater of World War II in October of 1943, and Raymond Graffis. She lost her mother within days of her brother Emery's death. She had not been in church much, only going to youth parties at Logan Center Church if she could talk her brother into going. After her mother's death, she invited the pastor over for a meal, and he led her to the Lord. And then she got baptized at the same time as her father. She met Harold Carlson in town. The high school and young 20s youth would meet on the street Saturday nights eating bags of popcorn they had all gotten at the theater. They wouldn't go to the movie, but would actually just buy and eat the popcorn. Harold wooed her by tossing popcorn up in the air and catching each kernel in his mouth. Quite a show-off. Grandma says, he even asked if I wanted some once. When another guy did not show up for a date with me one time, Grandma says, I made myself available and we began to date. Harold never did propose, though. They went to the city to buy a car, but no car was found for the amount of money he wanted to spend, so they actually got a ring instead. Marriage was at Logan Center Church outside of Laurel in February 1946. She and Harold lived in several houses north of Laurel and in town. The last home where she is presently living is the one that belonged to her Grandma Nellie Burns, and then became the home of World Missionary Fellowship Church. Her work outside of the home was at the Zenith plant in Sioux City as a school bus driver when the kids were grown, driving Craig Forsberg, her great-nephew, to Sioux City. But most of the time she enjoyed being a farmer's wife. Every summer afternoon, all work would stop for the men in the field and she would bring coffee and dessert out to them. Occasionally she would drive out one of the 2-ton trucks of cattle to Sioux City to sell. The great delight for the family was stopping at the Diamond Horseshoe on the home for wink, wink. Vacations were to Chicago with just Harold and a trip to California with he and his parents. They had several trips with the family to see Dick when he was in the Army at San Antonio, Texas for his graduation from basic training, and then to Fort Collins, Colorado for a visit. Otherwise, the vacations as a family were every summer to attend Midwest Bible Camp in Waterton, South Dakota with Keith Williams. Eleanor and Harold had 5 children: Dick, Eldon, Greg, Larry, and Lori.
Yes!
Okay.
Spoiled rotten.
Yep. Okay. Let's hear from some of the family members. Dick recalls the propane Minneapolis Moline tractor always had a hard time to start. They would drive the truck ahead of the tractor to pull it to get it started. One time Mom was driving around the windmill for a while and then started to go down the lane. As she saw Dad waving, she thought he meant she should go faster. She sped up to 50 miles an hour. Dad was hanging on for dear life and the Mini still didn't start. Larry's memory is of Mom driving the silage truck. She said that Dad always gave her the junkie truck. The truth is that most all of them were junkie trucks. He also remembers riding with her, the truck dying and experiencing the thrill of rolling down the hill backwards. Even in truck driving, her faith would shine through. One time, foliage, haylage, fell down on the muffler and started a fire in the truck. I was standing by the front door of the house, Larry says, and saw Mom coming with the truck from the East 40 with flames and smoke pouring from underneath the cab. What does Mom do? She gets out, kneels down by the step, and starts praying. That's my mom, and by the way, the fire did go out. The oldest grandchild, Scott, said, we had the cold days in the combine, dust from the chaff, and the inevitable combine breakdown. But grain was flowing and bins were drying, and a key part of the process was Grandma driving the grain truck. I don't know whose idea it was to have Grandma haul several tons of grain over gravel roads up and down hills in a truck in which she couldn't push the clutch all the way to the floor and struggled to shift the gears. But it sure made this young boy's exciting life more exciting when he rode with her. Oh yes, I will always remember Grandma grumbling at the truck, trying to push the gear into place while I held on for dear life. Those were the days. Sharon and Grandma were going to the field in the truck. She asked Grandma what shirt she was wearing, and Grandma said, oh, it's my church shirt. But it's holy, said Sharon, full of holes. And then as only Grandma could say, well, it's my church shirt because it's holy. Her only daughter, Lori, also had some experiences, such as one coming up the hill with the truck in the wrong gear. Lori says, we would roll back down the hill with no brakes because she had actually killed it. Dick's wife, Judy, was always amazed that Grandma would never change the position of the seat when she went to drive the car herself. She would leave it to the same position of her 6-foot husband. As a young boy, Dick was riding in the 53 Plymouth with his mom driving across the field to take lunch to the guys. Dick says, I spilled the coffee and she chewed me out for spilling Dad's coffee. Mom passionately rebuked him and said, Dad needs his coffee. What is he going to drink now? Yes, we all recall that Harold never did have trouble finding a cup of coffee. Speaking of farm work, Scott says, Grandma was such a trooper. She was always milking cows and helping on the farm, even while she got her own work done. July was the time we all walked the beans. This was what farmers did before someone thought a bean-safe herbicide would be a lot easier. After chores, Grandpa would be in the shop, sharpening the corn knives, and Grandma would be getting the water coolers ready. Then we would all go out and slog through the dew-damp fields. The sun would rise, drying the dew and making it so that we weren't only muddy and wet, but also hot and sweaty. But Grandma was always so positive and encouraging, saying, I think we're getting to the short rows now. It wasn't all hard work. Saturday nights were popcorn and watching TV, Lawrence Welk, Gunsmoke, and other westerns. But first we took our baths, whether we needed them or not. Usually we don't. Saving and sharing the same bathwater and studied our SS lessons. Rainy days found Mom providing a box of 64 crayons to keep the boys out of trouble. Sunday morning breakfasts were the biggest and best. Blueberry muffins, bacon, eggs, toast, cereal, jam, then off to church, but not without a spit bath to clean up the boys' ears that were missed the night before. Judy enjoys the chance to live so close and to be able to play cards at her kitchen table. Most of the times we are laughing at the funny things, Judy says. Funny things she says while playing. When Dick and Judy first got married, Judy said one of the gifts she was given from Mom was a hoop with embroidering, and it's still there. Sue counts it a delight to have received the embroidered tablecloth and napkins, a lovely oval of forget-me-nots and other flowers gracing the cream cloth. Sue says, I've used them over and over through the years, and they always wash up without spot or wrinkle. The embroidered dish towels chosen at the Summer Family Christmas in Wisconsin are starting to get very worn, but still work well. The embroidery work is a treasure that took many hours. Thank you, Mom. Even to the next generation, Michaela says, when Grandma and Grandpa used to give us all Christmas gifts, the only one I really remember was a handiwork starter kit. She sat down with me for hours, teaching me how to use it. When Sue went to meet the Harold Carlson family on the farm, she was quite smitten with Eldon, but was not quite sure what the family would be like. Mom Carlson did her best to make sure it was true love and did not sugarcoat the welcome. While in the kitchen helping with the dinner, she gave Sue a solid swack on the backside with a wooden spoon. At dinner, when everyone sat down to eat, there was a sincere table prayer. A lovely meal of fried chicken had been prepared. When Sue lifted her eyes from prayer, they opened a little extra wide as she saw 4 boys, including Eldon, plus little Lori and Mom and Dad, reaching to grab their favorite piece. In seconds, all that was left was one little wing. Sue says it was tasty, but she can't recall ever getting to have a meal of that famous fried chicken ever again. She has heard that favorite grandson, favorite grandson, Tyler, and his now bride, Rachel, have had a fried chicken meal prepared just for them. Eldon and Sue both felt the Lord was calling them into missions and were studying at Grace University. When Sue came to visit the farm one spring day, Eleanor suggested that she learn to dress a freshly killed chicken. Sue says, I declined, but she wouldn't take no for an answer, insisting I needed to learn this skill. That was the first and only chicken I have ever gutted and cleaned. You should pass that on to my wife. She would love it. In January 2008, Greg and Donna met Eldon and Sue in mid-Wisconsin to pick up Mom for an extended visit to the Chicago area. Donna says, she said it was her first overnight stay in our home. We lived in Omaha and Lincoln for 30 years, and that meant no need to stay longer than a day, and for sure overnight. Donna appreciates the ability to have a sense of humor and wit in the seemingly mundane stuff of life. Donna remembers, Mom gave reason on that visit for smiles and laughs. When driving behind a van with a dirty windshield in the back of their car, she says, looks like they need to wash their face. On that same day, she wanted us to pull over because I drank so much it's enough to float a battleship. Later on in the week, we took Mom to drive through downtown Chicago, and while gazing through the front windshield at the skyscrapers on Michigan Avenue, mouth open wide, she said, it's enough to get a sunburn on the roof of your mouth. On a Monday, we were eating dinner at the table. She, through her coughing spell, chokingly said, it went down my Sunday throat and got stuck. On our way to take her back to Nebraska, Donna was convinced we had enough fuel in the vehicle to get to the Iowa state line for a better price. But just before the last Illinois exit, the van began to sputter, and they rolled into the Illinois side of the river. As Greg was walking to the gas station, she said to Donna, well, it's a nice day for a walk, don't you think? Vicky was putting a ketchup bottle on top of another to drain inside Eleanor's mother's bowl. Vicky says, the bottle fell off and broke the bowl. She never said a word. Either I am forgiven or I am not, after all these years. Dan believes he may be Eleanor's most favorite son-in-law. And he may very well be, but he also believes she has ruined his storytelling. Dan says, I have no nasty mother-in-law stories. She has given to our family and would do whatever was needed to help us out. She is a special lady. The Greg Carlson family, along with Mom, Grandma, were driving to Wayne for a bite to eat. The three sons and Grandma were in the back two seats, and all of a sudden she says, hi, it's hot in here. And then she proceeded to begin to unbuckle the seatbelt, take off her winter hat, gloves, scarf, coat, and sweater. I then said quite excitedly, Grandma, you better not think about taking any more off. Joe and Jen stopped by Laurel on their way to Omaha from Wisconsin. Joe says, we were eating dinner at Grandma's house when there was a racket being made in the basement. Jen and I looked at each other, but Grandma kept right on eating. Then it happened again. I asked Grandma, what's in your basement? The spooks, she replied, and kept eating. The spooks? What is up, Grandma? Then the sound happened again. Finally, I ventured into the basement, and sure enough, the spooks turned out to be a bird that somehow had gotten trapped in the basement. Thanks, Grandma, you're the best. When Debbie was in the hospital, Grandma came to see her and said, Fiddlesticks, you need to get well so we can come and spoil you. When Larry thinks back over his childhood, the most distinct memories of his mom are one of her devotion to God. He can remember times of coming home from school or swimming lessons and finding his mom weeping over some truths she had found in Scripture. Larry remembers other times I would catch her deep in prayer. These are memories that leave an impression on the young boy. Larry also reminisced, my mom lives by faith and is a real prayer warrior. Heaven only knows what calamity has been avoided or what path any of her children would have taken if Mom would not have prayed. Thanks, Mom. Eldon recalls being tucked in with quilts his mom had made out of heavy-duty wool coats. Family devotions have been a crucial part of Mom's life while raising her children up to today. Eldon's touching, memorable moment is time in prayer with her and Dad when in Nebraska or Wisconsin. He has a keepsake video of her praying this. Thank you for the privilege of calling you Father. Whenever the Greg or Eldon Carlsons would visit, she would make a great breakfast. Then the tattered King James Version Bible with the daily bread would be read. Prayer would close off the time. Every child and grandchild would be prayed for by name with insights into challenges they were facing specifically. Donna remembers spending half of a morning praying with Mom when she was in Chicago. Grandson Sean shared, "My appreciation is just Grandma's general being." That's articulate. "Her approach to life is inspiring. In my view of her, especially the last few years with Grandpa, she had a what will be perspective. It's that general attitude that I appreciate the most. It is inspiring and extremely helpful to see someone that takes whatever life gives them and overcomes it with such apparent ease. I remember one time specifically, I came up to Laurel with my dad for a visit the year or so after Grandpa had passed. Grandma said she was doing some things on the house and got pretty excited about them. She also said she got a bill that hadn't been paid, so the house would have to wait. I remember my dad was a bit disappointed that she wouldn't be able to change the house, but she was totally okay with it. That may have not been a big deal, but it made a big impression. When I work with and teach 125 7th graders every day, I need that kind of attitude. Otherwise, I will have a pretty horrible day. For your presence, grace, and comedy, Grandma, thank you." When visiting the house in downtown Laurel, there are memories of Mom's special care of Grandma Esther. Eleanor and Harold had remodeled their home, so Grandma Esther had her own little apartment. Sue's memory is of the ladies working together, making rusks, thick bread slices that have been toasted and given several trips to the oven after being doused with milk or cream. They enjoyed this sweet treat. Granddaughter Michaela says, "Now that I am on my own and have my own family's laundry to do, I never touch the iron. But Grandma always ironed everything, including our everyday t-shirts. In recent years, Mom always has the name of a child in Awana to pray for, and she chooses the one who might need a little extra prayer and encouragement. Thanks for the prayers, Mom, Grandma." The Lori and Dan Hansen family's best memory is Grandma coming over every single morning to get the kids up and ready for school. Not only did she come and make us breakfast, but she also read us devotions every morning and prayed with us. Yes, one of the best ways our Mom and Grandma showed her love was through her cooking and baking of food. No one in the family understands Mom's great love for popcorn soaked in milk as a snack, or her mustard and sliced onion sandwiches. Nope. But cinnamon rolls. In the words that Chad is only really to express in that Chad brilliant way, he says, "That's all that needs to be said." Jeff also affirms the food. The cinnamon rolls, the steaks, the chicken, she cooked comfort food for us all. Although not all would agree, Michaela's favorite thing is Grandma's creamed peas. Michaela's most recent favorite memory was her teaching her how to make the most famous homemade egg noodles. Scott thought harvest time was always a favorite time of year at the Carlson farm. Of course, whenever harvest was done, the harvest supper with Grandma's homemade chicken noodle, chili, and oyster soups were devoured. Scott says, "But I think my favorite times with Grandma were Saturdays. These are the days I would go to Grandma's house to help her with baking. The bread, the rolls, and the cinnamon rolls with caramel bottoms. While they were baking, Grandma and I would play a game like Battleship or Scrabble. The smell of the bread baking would permeate the house, and then they were done, and it was time to sample the product. There was nothing like Grandma's homemade bread. Praise God that my wife and daughters have her bread and cinnamon roll recipes. The tradition goes on at the Carlson family, especially the men, keep growing." Oh, I get it. Eldon remembers Sunday noon meals as always. A roast beef with potatoes and carrots, and Sunday evening being grilled cheese sandwiches before watching Bonanza. On the morning before traveling for home, Grandma would make a waffle breakfast for Eldon and Greg and their families. They made for a sweet send-off. She often had Cool Whip to put on them, along with butter and syrup. We knew that when the waffle iron came out and we had her delicious waffles, this was the last meal and it was time for us to leave. A Christmas tradition was all the grandkids going out for pizza with Grandma and Grandpa the night before our Christmas celebration. Grandma looked forward to this eating out. Nick remembers Grandma would come out before school and get us kids up. "Kids, time to get up," she would yell from the bottom of the stairs. We never wanted to get up, so she started making pancakes, and then we all got up right away. We always had devotions together in the morning before school. And yes, Nick says Tyler was her favorite. That trend might ricochet through the family history. Need we mention Clown Sundays?
Ooh, yes.
I guess we don't. Those of us who live at a distance know that Mom's prayer and care extended around the world. Everything from a tattered Bible stuffed with missionary prayer letters to the cards she still sends for our birthdays and anniversaries. Greg particularly enjoys the phone calls on the way home from school, catching up at least on the weather. And being able to talk about joys, problems, and concerns, knowing that my mom would pray. Knowing her love extends over the miles makes the commute less painful. Jeff loves and remembers having Bible study in the mornings with her and Grandpa. Jeff says her laugh, so contagious and joyous. Her hugs, she might be short, but man, can she give a good, strong hug. I admire her courage and her heart. She has been a strong pillar for her family. Laura, the first granddaughter, tells the story. As a little girl, about twice a year, our family would make the pilgrimage from Wisconsin to the farm in Nebraska to see Grandpa and Grandma Carlson. It was so much fun to play with all the cousins. Carpet ball in the basement, games, hide and seek. During a rousing game of hide and seek, I remember discovering Grandma's treasures. Mountains of shoes and a cedar chest full of jewelry, tea towels and old pictures and stamps. Of all the treasures, it was the dress that caught my eye. A simple dress made of ivory silk and lace. Grandma later told me she bought her wedding dress for $50 at a department store, an extravagant purchase in those days. I stored the treasures in my mind, dreaming someday maybe I could be a bride, walking down the aisle in that dress. Years passed. It was a warm summer day in Wisconsin, June 14th, 1997. Here I was, standing, looking down my wedding aisle, dressed in ivory silk and lace. I didn't mind the long silk sleeves in the summer sun because my dream had come true. The silk-lined V-waist dress covered with lace fit perfectly. I was a bride, just like my Grandma Carlson. Reliving the memory of Harold and Eleanor Carlson. Today I would exchange my Carlson name for a new name. I would become Mrs. Kyle Schwendeman. Thank you, Grandma, Great-Grandma. We want to say thank you. We love you. And do we sing this together?
No, I want to read the last chapter.
Sure.
Last epigram for my children.
Laura wants to say thank you, Grandma, for letting me wear your precious treasured dress. My hope and prayer is that Kyle and I will also live out a love of life for Jesus, just as you and Grandpa did. I love you, Grandma. Laura. So, Mom, Grandma, Great-Grandma, we all want to say thank you. We love you.
And let's get all the kids up. Let's see how we can do it, okay? Great-Grand.
There we go. We're gonna get this in order, people. Thank you. Thank you very much. Here we go.
Oh, Garrett.
Oh, keep coming in. Oh, you guys are doing great.
That's right, honey.
Okay, we're gonna get it, people. Thank you. We love you. Where's very much? Right here. There we go. Grandma, we gotta get it right. Okay, let's say it together. Here we go. I think we got it.
Uh-oh, they dropped the sign.
Thank you. We love you very much. Happy birthday to you, Grandma! Here we go. Happy birthday
To you, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Grandma. Happy birthday to